Hi everybody, welcome to this live. Just want to check, I am hoping, hi, I am hoping and believing and trusting that you can all see me and that you can hear me, and I am extremely excited to share this journey with you today. And yeah, just let me know if you're on. I'm going to give it a minute or so just to make sure that people are on, give them an opportunity to get on. I'm sorry I had to cancel the other event. If there's anyone in this, hi there, welcome, thank you. If there's anyone in this group who can help me with the technological side of doing Zoom calls on Facebook, I will appreciate that. But welcome, Heather. And as always, yeah, well, this is going to be a fun one. Always fun when we talk about ourselves, isn't it? So I thought it is what I would like to do is people often ask me and again, if you're watching this live, please just drop a live. Oh, thanks, Heather. Just drop a live if you're watching this live. If you're watching it replay, please drop a replay. And as I go and talk through my journey of transformation, I would love for you to, to ask questions, anything that comes up. Because sometimes when you are on the other side of a transformation, it's like kind of it's like that other world barely happened, you know. There's literally like a before and an after. So I'm going to kick off. What is worth noting and what I really want you to know and understand is thank you, Yvette, thank you very much. Thank you for joining. It's nice to see you on here. Everyone's transformation journey is different, okay? We all have different paths, we all have different journeys. What is really, really important is that what I'm going to walk you through is my journey, my path, my story. And do not compare yourself at all. The worst thing that we can do in our lives is comparing ourselves to other people, and especially people that might be a step or two ahead of you. If you are going currently on a transformational journey, if you are making changes in your life, please know and understand that where you are at this moment in time is exactly where you need to be. So let me start, and I'm going to tell you the before kind of and the after and the why and what happened. And it really amazes me, and for me that is a question that I don't often get answered, is why do we wait for a pivoting moment to happen? Why do we wait for something drastic to happen in our lives before we make serious changes, before we go through transformation? And I think in many cases there's actually a reason, and for me I had to go through that. I had to go through what I had to go through in order to find my purpose and in order for my transformation to happen. My mission in life is to help women to not have to go through life-changing events. I mean, we often experience pivoting moments when people around us pass away, when we lose people, when relationships end, when we experience near-death, have near-death experiences, when we find ourselves stuck in places like toxic relationships. And that is what I would help you prevent, the burnouts. So my story started when I was a young girl. I was the third of three daughters. My father was very dominant, and my mother not. I do believe that my characteristics of being a people pleaser and being kind of subordinate and not good enough, that personality kind of was developed even before birth. I believe that there's a big part of us that gets developed before birth, and then there's also the ancestral and spiritual influences. So I want to say I came out of the womb as a people pleaser, wanting the acknowledgement of my father, needing the attention. And my first memory of feeling guilty was when my dad bought me a brand new bicycle. I think I was 6 years old or something, for my birthday, and everybody was standing outside very excited about this bicycle, and I, being very shy, and I didn't even want to get onto the bike, and that kicked off a history of feeling guilt and shame at that young age. And I know many people can speak of similar incidences where things that happened in their childhood, things that they heard, things that they experienced, caused certain traumas in their life, and that kind of steered them into a certain path. Other things also happened. I walked away from my house when I was really, really young. I walked to the neighbors, quite a distance, as a young girl, little girl, preschool. At that point in our lives, we were very poor. We lived in a house, 2-bedroom house. I shared the bed with my two older sisters, and I woke up thinking I was alone. My parents worked, and they had shops, and they worked very hard. So there were days when they came home late. Anyway, I dreamt that they were not there, and I thought I was alone, and climbed through the window and walked not to the neighbors but to another neighbors, friends of ours. Knocked on their parents' window. It was quite a story, and they opened for me. They tried to phone my parents, but couldn't, because when I climbed through the window, I accidentally pulled the cord of the telephone, corded telephones back in the day, out of the socket, and so they couldn't reach them. So they put me in bed with their kids and took me home the next day. I think what happened in my mind is, nobody noticed, nobody cared back then, that I walked away, was away for a whole night, and yeah, where were the search parties and the police and all of that stuff? Of course, it wasn't as dangerous as it is nowadays, but still. So that was the story of my very, very young life, and from there the story continued. It was like I never felt I was good enough. I never felt I was worthy. Parents bought me again a brand spanking freaking new piano because I was musical. I started playing organ, and then I started playing piano, and brand new piano, and I didn't know how to show gratitude because I was feeling guilty. So after that, many things happened. Yeah, I was kind of the shy girl. Um, I had other traumas happen to me which I couldn't talk about. It was just that generation, we couldn't talk about things. Um, Certain topics were taboo. Not, it wasn't said that they were taboo, but you felt they were taboo, right? Um, and then I went and studied, never completed my degree because again, I didn't feel worthy of being there. I didn't believe that I could finish my degree. There was no reason why I couldn't. I had the intelligence to finish the degree. I just didn't believe in myself. So that story continued. Met my first husband, um, and I, yeah, I think I also grew up in a generation, and I'm hoping for the new generation that things are different. But I grew up in a generation where, you know, we had to be rescued. Women had to be rescued. You know, the men were on kind of on top of the family, and women were just there. So I'm going to try and keep that whole story short by summing it up as I never got to know myself. I never took the time until I was 51, took the time to really get to know who I truly was. What were my true values? And I am not talking about things like, you know, social behavior and relationships and stuff. I'm talking about the deep core values that I treasured. I didn't accept myself. Through my life up until 51, I did things that I was ashamed of. I felt guilty. I went through a divorce. I was a single mom of my kids. My daughter was 2.5, my son was 5. When I divorced their father, I then left the country that we were living in. We were living in Botswana at that moment in time. It wasn't the country that I grew up in, South Africa. So I went back to South Africa later on. Of course, I felt guilty and ashamed about not sticking out in the marriage. Yeah, so there was stuff that I felt guilty and ashamed about. Obviously, about the divorce. I financially struggled hugely, raising the 2 kids as a single mom in living in Cape Town. I went from one career to another career again because I did not know myself. And then by the time I met my second husband, I was dreading being alone. And, oh, Chantal, my why? My daughter just popped in. So I never believed in myself. By the time I met my second husband, he was the knight in shining armor that was going to rescue me. I also realized later on that by then I saw my kids leaving home. I ended up being very codependent on them, and oh gosh, I love you too. I realized I was going to be alone. Kids are going to leave home. I thought they were going to leave home. They didn't. I left. But I was really scared of being on my own. I realized things were off. I have to say though that my life wasn't all bad. I mean, there were huge rewards. There were amazing times. Fantastic memories. But up until when I was 51, I really didn't know myself, didn't accept myself, haven't forgiven myself. And it was a trend. So I walked into a relationship which I knew from the beginning, the warning signs were there. It was not going to be a good relationship. But there were several reasons why I stuck it out for a while, which I'm not going to go into. The damage that got caused in that relationship was tremendous. There was a lot of verbal abuse. And the guilt and the shame just piled on top of everything that I already felt. I was also in a very stressful position where there were a lot of changes at work, in my career, and it's what we do, isn't it? We pour ourselves into something when we don't feel it inside. So I never felt, there was always something more that I wanted, I was always in search of something more, particularly because my core values were not being, I didn't, feel it. They were not in sync with what, my life should have been like. They were not in my relationships with partners, they were not in my relationships with my family. And they definitely didn't feature in my careers. So I moved country with my second husband in the toxic relationship, and things deteriorated because by now I was burnt out. I was a mess. So 3 months later, I walked out of that relationship, and I had no idea where to go. I had no idea what to do. I had no idea what my future looked like. I was in the lowest place that I have ever been in my life. I was alone. My kids stayed behind in South Africa. Of course, more guilt, more shame. I was a royal mess, and I had to pick up the pieces back then. I had a choice. I could have gone back to South Africa, back to the corporate, back to the rat race. I had a safety net in my family there. And looking back, that would have been the easier thing to do. Go back, just, keep doing what you're doing, right? But I didn't, because I also realized that something was off in my life. I also realized that that is not a life that I wanted. And mostly at that point in my life, I realized that that is not the legacy I want to leave behind for my kids. My daughter shared with me recently the picture that she had in mind of work. And that is what happens, is we are an example to our children. They learn from us. We learn from our parents. It's inevitable. Good and the bad and the ugly. And bless your soul, Chantal, I'm sure you wouldn't mind if I share this picture. But she had a picture in mind of work of a guy that sits chained to his desk. And that's what she learned from her mother, because her mother worked overtime, and she saw the stress and the anxiety and the unhappiness. She didn't see the rewards that I had at work. I had amazing relationships at work. But I never discussed that with her either. So inevitably, that was the picture that she was going to see. So if you take nothing else from this journey, then know that your kids see, they get a picture. If you're not going to talk things through with them, if you're not going to explain things to them, then they're going to build their own pictures about things. Communication is so important. So fast forward to that time of my life, I realized something needed to change. I of course had so much damage that was done. I had so many traumas that I then realized I have never dealt with. Things in my life, my dad passed away during time prior to meeting this guy, which I didn't really deal with, and there were many traumas that I didn't deal with, and so from that place of being extremely vulnerable and unsure, uncertain of a future, I started figuring out who I was. Who's this person inside? Why am I here? I was extremely fortunate to have stumbled on an online marketing company, which ended up being more of a mentoring kind of company, and that was the value that I got out of it. Yeah, I learned some marketing too, ended up building my own website, which I was very proud of. But the mentoring and the self-development that I went through was phenomenal. Because there was this onion. I was the onion. And the mentorship kicked off the work that I needed to do on myself. We sit with traumas that gets piled on. We sit with feelings of guilt, shame. We people please. We become codependent. We have all these things. Anger. We sit with anger. I was really angry, and no one would have ever known. We sit with all of that stuff and we just pile on and on and on and on. So this stuff never gets dealt with. And that was for sure true for me, because that relationship was basically the thing that broke the camel's back. It's the thing that I needed to turn it around. And so I just started peeling away these layers and going through that process. And I'm going to try and explain to you what it was like. Maybe I should start with what I did. So what I did is I immersed myself in self-development stuff. I listened to webinars. COVID was amazing for that. Listened to webinars. I listened to plenty audiobooks. I connected with life coaches and mentors. I was like a sponge. I soaked absolutely everything up that I could in terms of understanding how the mind works, the subconscious mind. I learned about the subconscious mind and, the stuff that sits there and that you don't deal with, and your stories that you build up, and how our subconscious mind tries to prevent us from getting hurt, keeps us safe, but in the end it actually hijacks us in a big way, because the stories are not always true. So I learned how to challenge the stories and the beliefs that I built up over the years. And I have to put this out there, I have far from arrived. I don't believe anybody ever arrives. You get to a point, yes, where you can look back and you say, oh, wow, my goodness, was I that person? I have grown so much. We all get to points, and then something triggers or something happens, and you realize, oh, but I've got more growth and more to learn. We will never arrive. I have far from arrived. But wow, have I learned so much. So that is what I did. I started meditating, I did yoga, and I started getting back to my passions. Passions is, one is Curacao, this amazing island that I live on. I just want to share it with the world. One of my passions is playing piano. I just immersed myself into playing piano, and the way I played completely changed because I was now free. Snorkeling. I even did a diving course. Zumba. I love dancing, and during COVID we couldn't dance, so Zumba was the second choice. Became a Zumba instructor eventually. I walked in nature. These are the things that I did. My journey is not going to be necessarily the same as your journey. Those things are not going to necessarily work for you. But I honestly believe that meditation is a crucial thing to do. And I will do more on meditation at some stage because it's just so important. Living mindfully, it's so important. Anyways, so those are the things that I did. What I went through is phenomenal. It's almost 3 years ago that happened, and over the past 3 years there's been COVID. I was extremely fortunate to have left the island just before COVID struck. I was stuck in South Africa, stuck in Cape Town, where I could immerse myself further into webinars and just learning and doing stuff. What I went through was getting to know myself. In that point, I was not able to say, I love you. When people used to say to me, Suzette, you're an amazing woman, it was like, it honestly didn't feel good. There was this, this gut feeling when you feel something is off. It just didn't feel right. In the process, I realized that because I didn't know myself, I was living unauthentically. And hello, I was someone who prided myself of being honest and open, and here I was, and I realized, but Suzette, you were not authentic. You were not real. So back then I decided that is going to become one of the most important things to me in my life going forward, is to be as authentic as I possibly can and as true to who I am as I possibly can. So I truly got to know myself. I started connecting with what are my values. I looked into who am I? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? There was a time that I just honestly didn't believe that I questioned, why was I here? I questioned, why would I carry on living here in this life? My family told me how much I was worth, and I didn't feel it, I didn't believe it. That took work. I'm not going to sit here and say to you, transformation, switch of a button, boom, you transform. That's not going to happen. It doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. What I went through was a process of really getting to know myself, being able to look at myself in a mirror, eventually being able to say, I love you. You are an amazing woman. You have got so much value to give. You have a purpose in this world. It took me a very long time to get there. But what I realized in this process of transforming was that time is a man-made thing. Time is just not, it's not important. When you start looking at who you truly are and at your soul, and you're connecting with yourself on a deeper level, time just doesn't exist. There was a message on Facebook the other day saying, how long does it take to heal? And I thought, but why do we want to be in a rush to heal? That is not a process that can be rushed or should be rushed. Because as you go through this process of removing the layers, the universe, God, whoever you believe in, your mind allows you to peel away as much as you need at that point in time, as much as you can handle, because every single layer that you remove, every single process that you go through brings stuff up, and you've got to have time to sit with that and really process it and feel through the emotions. Only once you have truly released the emotions will you be able to say, okay, I can kind of move forward. But knowing that there will be a time again when you will be triggered. You will always be triggered. There's things in your past happened for a reason. Things happened for a reason. That is your path, that is your story. You cannot undo it. You cannot undo what happened. You can change how you react to it. But that is part of your story. And you will probably be triggered for the rest of your life, every now and again. And that is what I learned, is to every single time when you are triggered, when those emotions come up, when whatever comes up, sit still, become still. And that is the power of meditation, is it allows you that space to just be with you. So my journey of transformation was phenomenal, and as I unpeeled these layers, and I promise you, everything, that's a huge thing that I learned, is to trust in that process of healing, of recovery, of growth. If you see everything that comes up as an opportunity to grow instead of an opportunity to blame or to pass responsibility, if you really take responsibility for that process as owning it, this is your process. Nobody else can walk in those shoes. No one. Only you can do that. Doesn't matter who you believe hurt you. They can still not come and fix it. It's impossible. And them hurting you is their stuff. How you react to that hurt, that is your stuff. So as I decided, and I realized, Suzette, just trust in this process, just trust that you are growing. And every other month I would look back and I would think, oh my gosh, I used to do that. I don't do that anymore. What happened? It's amazing. It is phenomenal. It is worth it. It is freaking hard work. Yes, it is. It is painful. It's hurtful. And very often do you have questions that you have to accept you're not never going to get the answers for. Things happen. You're just not going to get the answers for. So what you're going to have to experience is acceptance and forgiveness. And allow the emotions. What you're also going to have to realize is that you're not, although you are walking in your shoes, although you're walking this journey on your own, there will always be people in the sidelines waiting for you to say help. Yeah, thank you, Yvette. Yvette, that's so important. How they treat you is their stuff. From their stories, their histories, their past, their hurt, their pain. Hurt people hurt people. How you react is your stuff. So coming back to, there will be people on the side just waiting for you to say help, or to cry, or to whatever. The people that care about you. Ask for help. Allow people in. Allow people to help you. Open up. When you are true and authentic and vulnerable, the people that care about you will be super grateful. You will not be a burden. And I know, you feel like a burden. We do. When we need other people, we feel like we're a burden. Let it go. You're not. People who really care about you will appreciate your vulnerability. It's when we are not authentic and not true to ourselves, that is when we become a burden. The people that do not support you in this process do not belong in your environment. I'm sorry to say that. Thank you, Yvette. The people that do not support you in your journey of growth do not belong in your environment. Ladies, that is a very hard thing for us to do. So we believe that we should care for everybody. Everybody needs our help. We need to be there for everybody. It's a two-way street. And I hate saying that because it sounds extremely material, but there's got to be an exchange of energy. You have to receive and give. And yeah, it's not going to be at the same time. Sometimes, people need more at a certain time of their life. But there's got to be so much I want to say in terms of advice. I want to always say, if you take nothing else, take this. People that drag you down, toxic people, do not belong in your world. And here's the magical thing about that. The more you shift the toxic people out of your world, and the more you surround yourself with people with good energy, good vibes. And I'm not saying we should laugh and joke and be happy all the time. That's impossible. Nobody can do that authentically. I'm talking about people that can support. I'm talking about people that are not toxic and not negative. The more you surround yourself with people who support you, and the more do you attract the same. I have seen it. Oh my gosh, I cannot. The amount of amazing women that has come into my life in the past 3 years, I can write a book about that. Why? Because I attracted it, because I was looking for it, because I started lifting my vibrations authentically. That's what happens. That is when the magic starts happening. And with that, you start, the day I could say to myself, I love you, I accept you, warts and all, I forgive you for all the shit you did. That is freedom. That is peace. Because you know what happens next. You become confident in yourself. And do you know what happens next? You care less about what others think. You literally start caring less about what others think. Because what other people think has got nothing to do with you. That's their stuff. They have their opinions. And sometimes the opinions comes from a great place. And I've seen that too, especially over the last couple of months. People mean well. But the person whose opinion carries the most weight is yours. Your opinion. Because no one else, people can give advice, but they are not walking in your shoes. They're not feeling your core values. They don't know very often what your core values are. You know. And once you get to know yourself truly inside and out, and once you know what your core values are, life becomes easier. Much easier to make decisions because you're connected with who you truly are, and it is phenomenal. I'm not 100% sure how to end this, but I don't even feel like ending it, but I really am hoping that I shed a little bit of light on what transformation can mean to anybody out there. And ladies, it doesn't matter where you are in your journey, you know, it doesn't matter whether you are that person that's still feeling lost, feel like kind of disillusioned. I had a conversation with an amazing coach, my coach, such an amazing woman, last night, and we were talking about, you know, the whole kind of women scenario. You know, why do we feel lost when our generation, when we kind of hit our 40s, maybe 50s, and we kind of turn around and we say, oh my gosh, you actually have that feeling of disillusionment, like, really, is this it? Is this what it was supposed to be? Kids have now left home, they're now amazing kids, thank goodness they survived, you know? Okay, now what? What's next? And why is that? Because, and I don't like comparing men to women. To me, it's not a women-men thing. It's not a women's lib kind of thing. But we as women changed from, you know, being that person who bears kids and who cooks and cleans and provides a home. And then we realized, but that cannot happen anymore. We now have to join kind of the working community, you know. We now need to start contributing and earning salaries, and because men, you know, nothing is forever. And by the way, that's something else I learned from my journey of transformation. Everything is temporary. Nothing is forever. Nothing lasts forever. I'm sorry, but they don't. If you look at the trees and the flowers and people, cars, material things, nothing lasts forever. It's all temporary. So enjoy every moment. Live in the moment. Anyway, I'm deteriorating. Off track. So what I want to say is, we as women, we've evolved, okay? So now we are working, but we have not handed over any of our other responsibilities over to anybody else. we are still bearing the children, raising the kids, nurturing, caring for the whole family, cooking most of the times, cleaning, kind of managing the household, on top of the stresses, on top of building a career and earning income. And many of us just do all of that on our own. Of course we're going to feel burnt out. Of course we're going to feel disillusioned. Because if we have to compare, where did the men, they just kept doing what they were doing. They didn't get any additional kind of responsibilities or anything added to their plate. And by the way, we as women, I mean, if you financially, we're not earning what the men are earning, so we're doing all of this alone, and we're not able to build these little nest eggs like men do. And the statistics which my amazing coach shared with me is frightening in terms of how many women lives under the poverty line, our generation. So I've totally deviated off topic, but all I'm saying is, if you are that woman feeling like that, it's normal, it's okay, kind of join the club. But it doesn't have to end there. That is not the end of the story. You can still write your end. You can still have your fairy tale ending. You can still find your purpose in this world, your meaning, your passion, your spark. You can still, and I can vouch for that because I've been through it. I've been on both sides of the spectrum, and I can tell you, once you have gone through that transformational period, and once you've gone through the really difficult parts, there is a moment when the shift is so huge that from there onwards it just becomes so much easier. All you need to do is push through. So lovely ladies, I am going to leave it at that. I am going to just mention to you that I am launching a 5-day Permission to Thrive 5-day immersive experience at the end of the month. I have created a group that will be separate from this one. We all our like-minded women are going to hang out. There will be some jewels that I will share in there, and then there will be a 5-day free, just take you through things that I've learned over the years, and just help you to kick this process off, kind of, because I'm not going to promise you transformation in 5 days, but I am going to promise you that you will be another woman when you walk out of there. So I would love for you to join. This is something I do every week, by the way. Is sharing nuggets that I've learned. Today I've just felt the need to share my journey with you, because I think, we often look at the transformation, oh gosh, no, I can't do that, it's impossible, I'm not, anybody can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I grew up in a very, very small town in South Africa. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So that is my message to you today, is don't stop in your tracks and not try until you've tried. Let's kickstart this process. There is life on the other side of this tunnel, and there's an amazing life, an amazing light on the other side of this tunnel. So have a lovely day further, and thank you so much, Yvette, and everybody who contributed to the chat. Thank you so, so much for being here. I honor you for taking this time, and my darling daughter who took the time, and your support is, my family's support is endless and has been. Extremely grateful for that. Have a lovely day further, and thank you so much for joining.